Story time, story time, story one more time, story time, story time, story one more time. This is Yafeuh Balogun, street reporter, back to talk about something that's near and dear to me, near and dear to my heart. That's GMF, Guerilla Mainframe, um, something I helped start, conceive, direct, lead, and something I have stayed with for many years. And much of my foundation that I come to know and understand is coming from directed out of the experience in Guerilla Mainframe. So, that's what I hail from. That's where I come from. GMF Gorillas. How it all start? Me, Eric, Saida, Melchizedek. Um, Pretty much as I stated in my Timber Park episode, we was talking about some of the programs. Within those programs, Guerilla Mainframe had always existed. However, we were more wanting to be a little more secret about the group. It's more of a it's more of an inside thing, if you will. Somebody had to tell you about it, and that wasn't something we were just telling everybody about it. So that's how really Guerilla Mainframe got started, because PLC was more or less like the public organization. PLC was more public, and that's where we kind of let everybody or anyone that we thought was a good fit. If you fit good, then you can definitely join PLC. GMF, Guerilla Mainframe, was more like a elite version of PLC. And so, primarily and principally, the individuals I just named, Eric, Saida, myself, Melchizedek, was sort of principled in getting Guerilla Mainframe started. I remember we was riding down the freeway and we was kind of looking for a name, to kind of start to push it with. You know what I'm saying? We riding down Interstate 45, headed towards South Dallas. And Saida actually came and said, uh, we should choose a Guerilla Mainframe. And I think one of the primary reasons behind that is because uh, that prior year we had created something locally that really they've been doing around the country, which was a Black August study group. And so we were studying at that particular time. We were studying the works of George Jackson. And so this is the whole idea where this gorilla come from. And so with us being studying George Jackson, Black August, um, that sort of thing, some of the works of George Jackson, that was influential, uh, really influential to our political thinking at the time. You know what I'm saying? And really at this point as well. But that's kind of why we chose the gorilla part. You know what I mean? Second to that, because for the most part, gorillas are vegetarians, and and they strong, and so that's the reason why we chose the gorilla as something that we wanted to embody the gorilla in the sense of what George Jackson was speaking of, and also the dietary lifestyle of the gorilla is something that we wanted to embody, and that we know that we struggle with, or people struggle with on a daily basis, eating healthy, trying to live as much as a healthy life as you possibly can, and continue to thrive and survive. So that's why we chose Guerilla Mainframe. And so Saida, she she picked the name as she was driving down the freeway, and it was just something that I thought was good, and we all thought was good, and so we sort of ran with it. And just keep in mind, we in Timber Park Apartments in Pleasant Grove, um, East Dallas section of the city. Uh, when we created this, um, using the platform PLC as our platform, and organizing in the city. You know what I mean? Trying to be an example. Every night we were patrolling. Myself, Melchizedek Gibbs, others who were in link with us was patrolling. Keep in mind, this was 2008. We were doing armed patrols in the community, open carry. You know what I'm saying? Not just um, handguns or whatever. We was having shotguns and other weapons as well. And so that's kind of what our program was about. At nighttime, we would do patrols in the community in East Dallas. At nighttime. In the daytime, we would still walk around the community, but we would be more just observing as things going on and kind of be someone that people can kind of count on. So, case in point, just for example, let's just say like someone needed assistance with groceries or whatnot, or need some assistance, you know, trying to carry something in, we would more or less kind of assist with that. Our efforts was we were wanting to gain the confidence of the community. That's what we was trying to do. We was trying to gain the confidence, you know, just to say that we could be trusted, to a degree. You know what I'm saying? We wanted people to trust us and learn to depend on us. But at a certain point, we wanted people to be able to do things themselves. So there have been two situations, two instances where I have committed myself to doing these community patrols on a daily basis. It was this particular time between 2007 and 2009 in Pleasant Grove, in Spring Hollow, Timber Park, and other areas. And the second was in Highland Hills in 2019 in the Greens. That's kind of what my experience comes to in terms of dealing with people in the community where they live. One interesting thing about back in 2007 through 9, when I mentioned that we had Spring Hollow and Timber Park as bases of operations, meaning that we were dealing with the community knew us well, they knew our names, they knew our faces, and to some degree they trusted us. Um, Other apartments in the area began to seek out our um, our services. They wanted to have something similar to what we were doing, and they wanted us to do it because they had been hearing about some of the works that we're doing. So, uh, one particular apartment was called Aspen Chase. Aspen Chase is off, I think, 635 and Centerville and Ferguson, and it's a pretty large apartment complex. Um, I was able to kind of go in and have a conversation with them. Myself and Mayor Chesedek was able to go in and have a conversation with them and able to secure a couple of guys who we felt would be a good fit to help assist us. And so we had a couple of guys that were on the property. Now, Aspen Chase, of course, was a very large complex. Probably had over 200, maybe even 300 units. Very large, and they even gave me a third floor, 1,000 square foot unit, which is like one of their biggest, and on the third floor. The interesting thing about that is when you go into these locations, these areas that's looking for some sense of security in the form of people that look like the people in the community. We were very much so in competition with the police. The police had a number of different contracts. Police had a number of different contracts um, that they was trying to keep, and here we come, uh, basically offering services and getting them kind of dismissed off the job, so to speak. This is something that they use to as an opportunity to make money, and we use it as an opportunity to organize. And so that's the interesting thing about that. And so I just remember hearing from the managers at that time how they was talking about how the police didn't like us, not necessarily because of our ideas and our rhetoric, things of that nature. What just simply because we was taking money out their pocket, they extra money, right? So they worked a normal police shift, but then they had extra money. They play money basically. They're extra money where they can um, get their cars with type vehicle they want, or extra money where they can have the, take the girlfriend out with. That sort of kind of money that we was messing with the time, and they just got sick and tired of us, and so they put forth an effort, at least as far as Aspen Chase. I think Millennium, forget the name of the complex, it's called Millennium Point, I think. They put forth an effort to get us off of those properties because they didn't want us there. And so again, all of this was taking place in um, 2007 through 2009. And so when we started to really push Guerilla Mainframe was on that property. And one of the things that happened, of course, had gotten to a situation with the police, had detained one of our individuals, and Melchizedek himself had taken a position, a kneeling position, probably about 30 yards from the police, but with his AK-47. Of course, he had it in a low ready position. Um, and so that pretty much was the kind of the first symbol of Guerilla Mainframe that's used. It's an old symbol. It was drawn by a local artist named Show Nuff. And Show Nuff, if you was in Dallas in the early 2000s and near the West End area, you would have seen Show Nuff in Dallas because he would sell his art. And I bought a few pieces from him. And Show Nuff was from Chicago. He was an artist. He had a GD background, and he had not too long had got out of prison, but he was very confident to try to wanted to make better for his life, and you know he wanted to make better. He claimed to be related to Larry Hoover. I'm not sure how truthful that is. I think his name was I think his name was Victor Hoover. I'm not sure. I think that was his name. I'm sure. I'm thinking, did he go by that? Or did he? Uh, but that's interesting in itself. We're just thinking about showing up. But that's what we call it, showing up, because he would. You would buy his art was pretty nice too. It would be a drawing, a hand drawing, and when you buy it from him, he say, "Show enough." You know what I mean? So yeah, we reached out to Show enough, told him, kind of gave him an idea. He drew it. We went with it. You know what I mean? Initially, it's the first symbol that we identified as something that represented GMF, and basically it was uh, the kneeling of Melchizedek that represented. So the figure in the image is kneeling and has a weapon and has long dreads. And so that's sort of representing that night when the two brothers were detained, and uh, I was walking towards the police. Melchizedek stayed back, and I more or less kind of had words with the police, and that kind of kind of went a little funky a little bit, but we got it back to order. But that's how Guerilla Mainframe was kind of essentially founded. It was founded from the works of the People's Lunch Counter, and the People's Lunch Counter was essentially like a group that promoted vegetarianism and healthy lifestyle, holistic living sort of thing. And that's how Guerilla Mainframe, based upon our reasons and understanding of the principles of George Jackson. Um, and if anybody has read George Jackson, Blood in My Eye, Soledad Brother, any of that type stuff, that's kind of what was moving us at that particular time, particularly especially in the summers. Like I said, at that time we had did Black August 2 years, at least 2 years, and every year it would require a fast. Every year it would require some political education. Every year it would require some sort of discipline. And I think that was the biggest thing. And then of course, we also read the history, Black August, George Jackson, Katari Gordon, uh, folks like that. You know what I mean? Jonathan Jackson. Read about some of their actions that took place, particularly obviously the Marin County Rebellion. All of that impacted us, and that's how we created Guerilla Mainframe. Aside from that, influences from other forces, including I would say Bandeli Tayumba, who was very influential. And that's kind of when myself and Eric, when we left from something we created called Freedom Now Organization for Economic Equality and Social Justice. We ran into Bandeli, and we sat with Bandeli and other students like Kalika and Penny, uh, sat with them and kind of went through their rigorous political education. At that time, Bandeli was passing out pamphlets and leaflets and things of this nature. And he would probably print them off before each meeting, and then he would be there to sort of lead the meeting. He would be leading the meeting. We'd all be sitting at a table, maybe about 10 of us, and Bandeli would be, we'd be having certain conversations about, Pan Africanism and certain conversation about what's going on around the world, things that terminologies I never knew nothing about, particularly Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, that sort of thing. And I found out that Bandela later on he was from Ohio, and so I always thought that was interesting that he came down from Ohio, I think particularly Cleveland, came down from Cleveland to Dallas and basically started this bookstore. Whereas it's not often mentioned, but he could have maintained his job or his career, I should say, because he was rather educated, and been and been just fine. But he decided to put his passions into creating a bookstore and resources for Black folks, or what he would say is African people. And so that was kind of what I came into um, pretty early. And of course, Bandeli was comrades with Stokely Carmichael, or Kwame Ture, I should say, and they was pretty close. To the point where when Kwame Ture would come to Dallas, he would often stay with Bandeli and his family. So that was that was my experience. You know what I'm saying? That was more or less my experiences uh, that helped created the foundation for GMF, for Guerilla Mainframe, um, and our whole thing was we just wanted to be consistent, and I think that our desire to be consistent kind of led to some things that happened to us a little bit later on, maybe 10 years later. Um, but 2008, that's we was serving people in the community out of the Dream Center at 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 the complex there. We was serving people vegetarian food and things of that nature, and they didn't even know that they was eating vegetarian food within Timber Park. I'm speaking about in Timber Park, we served them vegetarian food. They didn't even know they was eating vegetarian food. They'd be eating, and again, this is for all this social media stuff. So just keep in mind that people now are a lot more educated about a lot of things that back in 2010, 2009, 8, 7, 6, 5, that they wasn't educated about. You know what I mean? Now it's very easy to run across something that'll kind of pique your interest or make you think a little different just for the advent of social media. But social media wasn't as big then. And so information was really kind of kept to the minute, so to speak. And if you knew, you knew, you know what I'm saying? If you knew somebody with some information, or you knew how to get it. But now it's just easy. You can go to Google now and type in the information you want to see and be very well connected to it. Kind of like this. You could you could use this as a platform to talk to millions of people worldwide without even ever leaving your room, so to speak. So that's kind of I think some of the differences between back then and now. And so we was giving those people like vegetarian options, and they didn't even know. And some of them didn't even know about vegetarianism. All of them didn't know that under State Statute 46, as far as Texas law, you had a right to have arms and things of that nature. They didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? But through the process of seeing us, you got to understand how many brothers and people in general that we educated just because they saw us and they saw us interact with police in that manner. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that they at that particular time they would tell you that they never seen that before. You know what I'm saying? Which I thought was interesting. Um, I remember one particular time, um, and this is this is when I was way well probably a little bit more radical than I am now. And you're right, BJ. We gotta be we gotta be very careful. And I will admit, BJ, in my younger days, I'd probably say I was a little more radical than I am now. Uh, yeah, I was kind of careless in many ways. So I definitely do agree with you there, BJ. Um, I remember the police came to basically trying to get identifications. It's I'm gonna try to keep it pushing. Golly, okay, so the police, the police came to the property, trying to figure out, who exactly, who we were at that particular time, and of course the complex, of course, gave them our information, myself, Melchizedek, that whoever else was on the property, basically gave them the information. And so I was just so upset by that. I was just so upset by that situation, how information was just given just because the police wanted to know, um, and because it was asked without our permission. That was probably the biggest thing to me. It was given without our permission. And so I went down to City Hall. I had 7.62 times 39 bullets. I had like a buoy hat, and I had 7.62 times 39 ammo like all across my head, and I had I was looking very militant. So I had the call the militant pack, so to speak. If you want to look like a black militant, I was a black militant that day, and I went down to City Hall, and I quoted. I kind of speak with a lot of energy, and I quoted Che Guevara and other revolutionary folks. And, what I'm saying, to the point to where one of the elders, Don Ragsdale, had to come down. I guess she came down and I guess she heard me speaking. She came and stood behind me and kind of pat me on my back. The show sign of daddy. And if you anybody know Don Ragsdale in the city, Don Ragsdale's like a OG, major OG. They got a lot of respect. She lived across the street from some of the members of the Black Panther Party from 1970 to 1978. She lived right there with them, right across the street from them. Knew him, and she was part of she was part of SNCC too, I believe. I believe she was part of SNCC. But anyway, I'm also one of the first African Americans elected city council people. So, but of course, she wasn't on the council at the time that I was speaking. She just so happened to be there. And so with her being there, I guess they was trying to keep everything cool. But to make a long story short, that's kind of the energy that we presented through this whole time, because we didn't necessarily have no funds to really share with we were exploring on how to properly build an organization with to get resources to actually have the opportunity to share with the community. That's kind of what we was leaning on at that particular time, and so we were able to kind of hold that foundation in that area in Pleasant Grove for 2.5 years. We was able to do it for 2.5 years, and I'm talking about consistent every day, dealing with the people. and being visible. You know what I'm saying? And doing what now a lot of nonprofit organizations say they do is, which is being in the community. We done been entrenched in the community. Even at this point, since 2014, just being in Highland Hills. I'm in Highland Hills now, so that's just how we've been able to move, but also to keep intact of what some of our principles were, which is the George Jackson, which I was talking about, the teachers of Bandeli, Tayamba, which was the foundation for myself, Eric, Saida, and Melchizedek. Now to know them, as I explained in another episode of how I met Eric, I knew Eric from high school. That's how I met him. Saida, I met at the Black Forest Theater uh, with Erica Badu. You know what I'm saying? She was working with Erica Badu at the time, a part of Erica Badu's staff. I don't know how she got hired with Erica Badu. I don't know how she became a part of Erica Badu's staff. But I think she was like the bartender at uh, at the Black Forest Theater. And if y'all was in Dallas, y'all know Erica Badu had leased the Black Forest Theater for a specific amount of time, and during the time frame from 2005 to probably 2007, she had it open where she would bring a number of acts. One of my favorite acts that she brought was UGK. You know what I'm saying? Bun B. You know what I'm saying? She brought them, and I met Pimp C. You know what I mean? And so I was there in the capacity of doing security. So I did that for a number of different acts. Dave Chappelle, a couple of other people. But that's how I met Saida. I don't want to not tell her story. I know her father was probably very influential in her development as well, but she also was a student, or is a student, of Bandeli Tayamba. And then, of course, Melchizedek Gibbs, who's really a ghost who you probably rarely ever see. Melchizedek's father was a Rastafarian. And his family is that. He really was my inspiration to becoming vegetarian, him and Saida, because that was something that they was like really, really dedicated to. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what the principles of what GMF for Guerilla Mainframe was all about, is all about, which more or less got us started. And my hopes is, beyond me, at this particular point, I just hope that group, Guerilla Mainframe, continues and grows and develops to whatever it needs to be at the time that it needs to be used. So that's it on the foundation. Again, it's 2008 basically, but it was an ongoing process of how we got going. Essentially, but we got going. It was something we believed in. Eric Yafeuh was right there, worked with it every single day, sacrificed every single day. Melchizedek, Saida, myself, other people, Satori, other people that was like dedicated, people that ran with them. Rage Almighty, rest in peace. Rage Almighty was a well-known poet here in the city and really known around the country. That these days we gotta give credit to the mighty Rage Almighty. You know what I'm saying? Adam Tench. You know what I'm saying? Who unfortunately transitioned a few years back. Rest in peace, Adam Tench. I just want to mention Rage Almighty because I rarely see his name mentioned. But Rage Almighty was an awesome figure within the poetry scene in Dallas, but he also played a significant role in what our development was, especially when it came to some of the social platform things. Like, for example, just doing the show drive. He targeted. Now I'm gonna say he targeted kids in the community. I got a lot of static. So yeah. So he anyway he started a shoe drive for troubled teens. You know what I'm saying? And was able to get over 250 shoes for troubled teens to Pleasant Grove. So man, things like that is what we was about, what we are about, and I'm sure everybody here can relate, to saying to it. So, by the way, I'm a step off now. Catch the next episode. Not sure what we'll be discussing, but I just thought it was important to discuss the foundation of Guerilla Mainframe in Pleasant Grove 2008.